Hi everybody, my name is Araceli Camarillo. Welcome to CIT 230. I will be discussing CSS keyframe animations. As of today, these are the current browsers in which we can use the CSS animation. Any previous versions will actually have either bugs or will not be working properly. These are some of the concepts we will be reviewing during this lesson. So what are CSS animations? They let an element gradually change from one style to another. In order to use these, we need to specify the keyframes for the animations. So we will be actually using two things: the add keyframes rules that define the animation sequence and the animation subproperty, which will be contained within the element that we will be using. We can animate a paragraph, we can animate a picture, we can animate an icon and background color. All of these different things as long as they are within an element. Alright, so within the animation code, this is what it looks like. We have our element over here defined in the CSS stylings with its different characteristics. And as you can see, we have the animation subproperties right here. Here's kind of a generic example. Below, we have the add keyframes rules, and in this case, we need to have the add keyframes plus its identifier. In this case, it's called slide. The reason why it needs to have an identifier is so that above, the animation can call it by animation name. In this case, it's slide, right? And then we have this block, or this section right here, which is called the add keyframes rules. A little bit more about add keyframes. They give more control over the intermediate steps of the animation sequence. It also contains the keyframe identifier, which again in this case was slide, a style list of the keyframe selectors, which specify the percentages along with the animation when the keyframe occurs. So it can be anything from 0% to 100%. Also, it'll have a block containing the styles for that keyframe. So in this case, we have 0%, the background color will be blue, 50% the background color is purple, 100% the background color will be yellow. Anything that is displayed with the exclamation mark and the word important, this rule will automatically be ignored. The keywords that are allowed within this block are from and to, or we can just use the percentage directly. Let's see what this looks like a little bit. So again, we have our element with the CSS stylings, the animation, calling the add keyframes rules, and the keyframe rules over here. So in this case, I've determined that at the beginning, the background color should be blue. In the middle, the background color should be purple, and at 100%, the background color will be yellow. I've set it to last infinitely, so it will continue showing until the user closes the page. So once again, 0% will actually define the start and 100% will define the end of the animation. If this section is not specified, the browser will start or finish using the computed values of what was inserted. The animation duration is a subproperty that defines how long an animation should take to complete. If this is not specified, no animation will actually occur, because the default is 0 seconds, and well, nothing can really happen at 0 seconds, right? This picture to the right is an example of how we can use the words from and to versus using the percentages. So see how it can go from anywhere from 0% to 100%. And the values over here can change of what we will be doing or the stylings that we'll be applying. Or we can just use the words from and to. The next subproperty is animation delay. So this one specifies a delay for the start of an animation. In this case, the delay is of 2 seconds. Negative values are also allowed. If using a negative value, the animation will start as if it had already been playing for whatever amount of seconds we've determined it to be. In this case, it is -2 seconds. The next subproperty is animation iteration count. This subproperty specifies the number of times an animation should run. So we can either set the number, in this case we want it to run 3 times, or we can set it to infinite. And as we saw in the first example, if we set it to infinite, it'll just keep on playing until the browser is closed. Animation direction is also a subproperty, and this one specifies whether an animation should be played forwards, backwards, or in alternate cycles. The values that can be used in this case are normal. This one is default and it will always be played as forwards. Reverse, this one will be played backwards. Alternate, which will be played first forward and then backwards. And alternate reverse, the animation will be played backwards first and then forwards. The animation timing function. This subproperty specifies the speed curve of the animation. The values that can be used within this one is the ease. This specifies an animation with a slow start and then fast to then end slowly. This one is actually the default. Then we have linear. This one specifies an animation with the same speed from start to end. Ease in specifies an animation with a slow start. Ease out with a slow end. Ease in, out specifies an animation with a slow start and end. And then we have the cubic visor. So this one lets you define your own values in a cubic visor function. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So a visor curve is a curve with 4 control points. We have them right here. And they can be changed to whatever it is that we're looking for. The only problem with this one, well, one of the characteristics first, is that the cubic visor only allows the values from 0 to 1. And they will be displayed in this format. Cubic visor, parentheses, and the different values that will be within. And again, these will go from 0 to 1, whatever it is that we wanted to show. The only problem with this is that it's not that intuitive, and it will be a little bit difficult to see instantly how the speed is moving, so we will be having to manually try to change this curve, and it could be a little bit of a hassle after a while. So a shortcut that I found that could be beneficial for us is cubicvisor.com. This one actually, if we go in there, so this is visor.com. As we can see, the values are over here, and this is a curve over here. This can help us to maybe just get the values of the speed a little bit easier. We can play with that curve, and if you see the numbers move around over here. And once we're doing that, we can just copy these values and add them into our code so that it is easier for us to display it and for us to find the balance of what we're trying to get or achieve. Next, we have the animation fill mode. This subproperty specifies a style for the target element when the animation is not playing. So anything can happen before it starts, or after it ends, or both. This will depend on the animation delay, which we've talked about previously. The values that can be used within this subproperty are none, which is the default value, so animation will not apply any styles to the element before or after it is executing. Forwards, so the element will retain the style values that is set by the last keyframe. Backwards, the element will get the style values that is set by the first keyframe and retain this during the animation or delay period, or both. The animation will follow the rules for both forwards and backwards, extending the animation properties in both directions. So let's see how that actually looks. So in this case, the animation duration is of 3 seconds. The animation fill mode is forwards. So if we get it to play, this div element will retain the style values from the last keyframe when the animation ends, which is blue. So as you can see, it started at red, and once it started moving and it got to the position that it was required to, it went back to the color blue. Next, we have the animation shorthand property. So instead of using all the sub-properties that we just saw previously, we can just use the animation property on its own. This is how it can look like with the animation sub-properties we saw previously. Or we can just go directly to defining it with the animation property itself. So example would be the name of the add keyframe rules, or its identifier. This is the duration, the animation time function, the animation delay, the iteration count, and the direction. Another shortcut that I can recommend is CSSAnimate.com. So when going into this one, you can see all the different type of animations that we have. Wobble, for example. And you can play around with the duration, whether you want it to repeat, if it's going to be infinite, the timing function, which is basically you can play around and adjust all the different type of animations of properties that we've just discussed. You can play it over here to see how it's going to be working. And over here at the bottom, it will display the code. The code details. So this is if you're looking for something very, very specific, because the animations or the keyframes will actually require specific percentages for us to be able to move the elements around. And with this one, we can definitely gather that information a lot quicker. So these are the sources I've used to develop this presentation. I hope it's helpful, and let me know what you think in the comments. Have a great day!